And here we are with the Detroit Lions News Show. And we have a very special guest, Matt Dery. John Maakaron will be coming on shortly. Walter Stringer with the Detroit or Lions Avenue, and Joseph P. Chap with the Detroit Lions News Podcast. I'm your producer today. Make sure you leave comments, right? This is a live interactive show. I'm going to let these three go at it here, and they're going to go as much as they can. Matt's only got about 20 more minutes. Let's go. Let's talk. We're talking Lions playoff, baby. We're talking Lions playoff. Talk about it there, Matt. What's going on with you, brother?
Darce, great to see you and the rest of the fellas, man. What a week this is already being, and just the fact that Sunday night, NBC, under the lights, all eyes on the Lions and Rams is going to be absolutely awesome. I know I came on the show a few months back and said that this is the last matchup I wanted, just for the outside noise. Joe knows, with the unnamed quarterback, as I like to call him this week, and his wife. But look, bottom line is, Lions have to win to keep going, and to host this first playoff game in 30 years, to have the first one ever at Ford Field. They deserve this. This is such a likable team. To win 12 games is awesome, and I like their chances Sunday night. I do. As long as they take care of the football and eliminate some of the noise, I think they're going to be in good shape.
Yeah, there, I got it. Yeah, I agree with everything Matt just said completely. This is something that this town, we've seen a solid 2 generations now, pretty much since the last time this team hosted the actual playoff game or even won one within that decade. And this is something that let's hope that our grandkids know a whole lot about it, and our kids know about it as well. I don't want this to be just something that's a flash in the pan, which I don't believe it is. I think that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have built something for the long run. They're going to be around for a while. But I just want something that this fan base can call their own, because we've seen so much bad football and so much heartache for so long. And I think that's why a lot of fans here right now are really skeptical about this game. I think the Lions are better overall across the board than the Rams this season. I thought we proved it game after game in the way we were able to actually pull games out. We can win in a variety of different ways. And like I said, this is a team that nationally you can get behind. Everyone loves our coach. They made fun of him in the beginning, but everyone loves our coach. We've got a quarterback who's pretty much on his second time around. He's fighting for respect out there. And this is a very scrappy, tough team that everyone seems to really like right now. And I was talking with someone the other day about that this Lions team could become America's team, like the legitimate America's team, not just calling themselves the America's team, but this could be that team that this country really, really loves.
Yeah, I think when they come out Sunday night, I think the Sunday night game is like one of the biggest parts of the whole wild card weekend. I think if you get the Sunday night game above the Peacock game, I think that's obviously more notoriety. And obviously NBC values it. But I think what's going to happen is the Lions are going to show the world exactly who they are. And there's 3 critical mismatches that we have against the Rams right now. And we'll get into that. But I think that this is a chance for Dan. Obviously, there's not a lot of playoff experience on the roster. I mean, they're going to have to lean on Jared Goff. They're going to have to lean on Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Alex Anzalone, Cameron Sutton. There's not a lot of playoff experience. That's the only worry that I really have, especially with the head coach too, because he hasn't been in a playoff game. And that's always your biggest worry about these first timers in the playoffs. It's not like the regular season. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that game, especially early on.
It's interesting, Joe. You brought up a point about playoff experience. It's such a young Rams defense, though. And I know Aaron Donald is excellent, and he's as dominant a player as there is when it comes to defense in this league. And certainly the young kid, the rookie next to him, Turner, has had a really good year rushing the passer, but that's not a real experienced defense either. And I think if the Lions get this thing into going into a track meet and Ben Johnson's able to open up the playbook a little bit, and maybe Sam Laporta does end up playing, I think there is an advantage there. I do. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're all concerned about the Lions secondary, which has been a sieve over the past few weeks. And then you got number 9 coming back, and he can sling it. This has the makings of being a pretty high scoring game.
But correct me if I'm wrong, though. I mean, here's the thing about it. I look at both these defenses and I go, there's some very, very flawed parts of their defense. On the back end, you got the Rams defense, which they give up. I think I was doing the stats yesterday. They give up the most yak yardage, and I think when you have a wide receiver like St. Brown, and you're not going to have Raymond, but if you have JMO in this game, this is kind of a JMO type game. If you're ever really looking for a game where he could potentially break out, this is the game, because what I was noticing when I was going through my stats and I was going through the research was they give up a lot of yak yardage. Their starting corners give up a lot of yak yardage. So this is a game where, it's going to become a track meet. That's what I think it's going to be. I don't see any other way than that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that if you look at the Rams, once the Rams really began to hit their stride, Stafford got a lot hotter throwing the football. They were able to manufacture the run a lot better. We haven't allowed that all season. You're talking about a team that's giving up 88 yards on the ground per game on average, which I believe is third in the league. And the yardage is there too. So teams have been able to come in who have elite receivers. You're talking about the CeeDee Lambs of the world, the Keenan Allens, DJ Moores. A lot of those guys, they came in, they put up big numbers, but those teams were never, ever able to really get the running game going. So it's one thing to be able to go out there and get a guy, even Justin Jefferson. He did us in twice, and they never came close to really beating us either game. So it's a situation where they bend, but they don't break, and they really don't break. And that's the key to it. You can give up all the yards you want to give up, but at the end of the day, this is still a team that barely gave up over 20 points per game this season on
the other
average.
thing too, Walt, that you bring up a good point. Nakua and Cooper Kupp may get theirs a little, but if they can stop Kyron Williams and they can get the Rams into some third and long situations, this crowd is going to be crazy. I was at the Monday night game. I get it. Garoppolo got a little bit rattled. And I know that's Jimmy G. We're talking about a much better quarterback here in what the Rams are bringing to the table, but that crowd is going to play a factor. And, false start here or there, a 3rd and 8 turns into a 3rd and 13. That's huge. It really is. And I also think that, look, when the Rams won the Super Bowl a few years ago, the Andrew Whitworths of the world and all those guys up front, a lot of those guys are gone. The Rams O-line has gotten better after it was very shaky last year. But still, I think they can get after the quarterback a little bit here and kind of ride that crowd. If this was a road game, I think we'd be talking about a little bit differently. But I think that Ford Field crowd is just going to be insane. It's going to be nuts.
You guys brought up both good points about the stopping the run game. So I got some stats for you. When Kyron Williams is held under 100 yards, they are 1-4. When the Rams are held under 100 yards rushing, they are 2-5. And in those games, Stafford has turned the ball over 7 times. So if you want to stop this team, you got to stop them from running the ball. And I feel confident that the Lions can stop Kyron Williams because they've played some really good running backs down the stretch this whole season. And I think the only running back that really got to them was maybe Josh Jacobs, but he didn't even crack over 100 yards. And then, Matt, you brought up a good point about the Rams tackles. They have given up 10 sacks this whole season. I think this is a game where, obviously Hutch has gotten on a roll lately, and I think this is where he could really solidify himself as that premier pass rusher.
No, I agree, and I think it's interesting, and you guys tell me because the home field is going to play a big factor in this game. I really, really believe that. I mean, the Rams special teams is 32nd in the league. Brett Maher, their kicker, remember him last year with the Cowboys in the playoffs, how shaky he was, and a missed field goal and field position and switching the field could be huge in this game. A guy like Jack Fox, who's been unbelievable the last few weeks, pins the Rams deep. They got to go 97 yards. The unnamed quarterback and the Rams offense is set back in the end zone. I mean, it's going to be tough for them to hear. And I know they've gone through silent counts. Matthew's seen it all. So is Sean McVay. So is Cooper Kupp. But I think some of the youth on that Rams team, this isn't like the Rams team that we saw a couple of years ago when the Lions lost to them in the regular season, nor is it the team that, of course, obviously won the Super Bowl. So big advantage there. The crowd's got to be into it, and I think they will be.
Yeah. Also, I think even if you combine the sack numbers, the sack totals of Kobe Turner, Byron Young, and Aaron Donald, still overall that defense has struggled this season. And I think if one thing's been proven with this Detroit Lions team is that you're not going to be able to beat them without defense at all. You know, the Chargers tried to outscore us. We had games where teams couldn't really stop us too much, but at the end of the day, we were able to outscore them. If you look at the games we lost to some really tough defenses. You're talking about the Baltimore Ravens. The Bears defense got pretty good as the season went ahead and unfolded, and even Dallas for that matter. So if you don't have solid defense, it's going to be a long day beating this team because we can score. That's the whole thing. And if you look at how the Rams play, no one's been able to really get that running game ignited. If Kyron Williams or whoever they decide to give the ball to, Royce Freeman, whoever they want to give the ball to, if that offensive line that has some injuries right now, and then you're looking at a guy like Tyler Higbee who may be out at tight end, that's a major loss right there. If they don't get that running game going, are you sure McVay wants to put that much pressure on Stafford? Even though Stafford is a Super Bowl winning quarterback right now, I don't think you really want him out there throwing the ball 45 times Sunday night because Matt will still give the ball up. That's one thing you can always count on, I think, in a situation like this, that Matt will probably give us the ball at least once.
Oh, man.
Now, we got to make the most of it.
You got to catch it. I mean, look, Brian Branch had that dropped interception against Nick Mullins a couple of weeks ago. I mean, if these DBs get their hands on anything, they have got to secure it. Turnovers have been big. I mean, that's really been the Lions thing. I mean, when the Lions win the turnover battle, they win. When they don't, they lose. Just look at the New Orleans game where they just, were very opportunistic. But it's a different animal, certainly, in the playoffs. And a lot of these guys, like you guys have talked about, haven't been through this before. But I like where this team is right now in terms of how well drilled they are, mistake-free they've been a little bit lately, which I've liked. And I think Ben Johnson's going to show off a little bit because he knows everybody's going to be watching. He dials up some things that's going to only drive the price tag up for him with all these teams in the 7 openings where he's going to be a viable candidate and pick where he goes next.
Yeah, you just brought up a good point about Ben Johnson. Obviously, there is no shot in hell that the Lions get unscathed with Ben Johnson staying and Aaron Glenn staying. I mean, I don't think anybody's seen Pete Carroll getting fired today. So it's just a wild, wild west out there. And I think Ben Johnson's going to want to go to the best team. And I like what you just said, Matt. He's going to try to show off, kind of show what he got, what he has. And I think that this is a perfect game for him to do it because, like I said, these Rams corners, they're not good tackling. They give up a lot of yak yardage. And if you get Amon-Ra St. Brown or J-Mo in space, this is a chance for you could really open this game wide open. Because all you're going to have to do is stop the Rams once. And I think that could get Sean McVay a little bit more aggressive than he should be.
Are you guys worried, Walt, about Laporta? If Laporta works out before the game and tests out that knee and he's only about 65, 70%, you playing him and risking him being out there?
No.
Or are you waiting until next week?
No. There's no way I would do that to that young man at all. If he's not ready to go, he's not ready to go. And the first thing we heard initially, the very next morning, about the injury from former athletes was that he would probably not be ready to maybe the NFC Championship. For him to come back out there a week later, I mean, it's gutsy, but I wouldn't want him to do it, and I wouldn't let him do it at all. I think James Mitchell is very capable. He showed once he got healthy last season, down the stretch, what he could do. He had about, I think, 11 catches on 11 targets. People forget how big of a downfield threat James was. He's a big, fast, athletic tight end with long arms, and he can catch everything that comes his way. So while Laporta had a hell of a rookie season, a historical rookie season, I'm pretty encouraged that James Mitchell can step in and make some plays. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if James played a major role Sunday night.
I will say this, and Joe, before you go, they haven't signed anybody.
Right.
Zach Ertz is out there. Zach Ertz has Detroit ties with Steve Hyden here, the Lions tight ends coach who we played for in Arizona. It surprised me a little bit that maybe that's a sign that Laporta is going to play. Because I thought for sure they would add another tight end by now.
Well, if you remember right, remember Travis Kelce had his hyperextended knee like 2 days before the Lions played the Chiefs. It's pretty much the same injury, and he played a week later in a regular season game. I'm pretty sure the Chiefs wouldn't I don't think they would risk that for week 2 against the Jaguars. Okay, so if he's able to go, if he's 70% or more, fine. There is no way in hell that you have any player above 70% right now. And if you are at 70%, you got most of your players, you're probably going to go far in the playoffs, because we always talk about the NFL playoffs, the NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball, not the NBA, because that's a totally different sport. But it's about attrition. The healthiest team at the end usually wins.
So Matt's got to go with Locked On Rams. He has a pre-recorded show. John, can you ask him one question? I would just want to get a clip with you guys together.
I got to say hi to Johnny Mac.
Yes, Matt. Thank you so much. Good to be here with everybody. It's a great time. Hey, always listen. You know me. I listen to your podcast. I loved seeing the billboards with your Locked On Lions podcast. Anybody doing anything to advance the cause of internet audio and the work that you've done, the guests, the interviews, I definitely listen. Get news there as well. Matt, how you feeling? I just want to know how you feeling. I know some people are nervous. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the years of being sick. I'm confident. I feel like
so am I. No.
A 12-win football team is going to make the plays late. How you sitting, my man?
No, I feel good. I was telling the guys before, I think that I think this is a good football team. I mean, they won 12 games for a reason, and being at home is huge. I think this crowd will be so into it, and I am confident. And there's depth on this team. You know, we were talking earlier about Laporta, and Walt brought up a good point about James Mitchell is very capable of stepping in. He's not going to be Sam Laporta, but no, I'm excited. I think they're going to do it and get this thing done. I mean, it's not going to be easy. Certainly Vegas had him opening up as a 3.5-point favorite. Now it's down to 3, but I like their chances. I'm feeling good. What about you, John?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. I've just been confident. It feels like the Lions, the coaching staff will have them ready. I know that people are a little bit nervous about the team not having a lot of experience going into this postseason. Only really Jared Goff, Josh Reynolds, supremely having a lot of playoff experience. But I look at it and I say, oh my goodness, this team has played such a high level. Dan Campbell is going to be a factor. Matt, I'm curious, what do you think about the matchup between Goff and Stafford? Who plays better? Because really, you look at the matchup and you see two quarterbacks that are almost identical. And I think that Goff obviously has a lot, but I don't know. It's real close. I think one of the keys is going to be which quarterback plays better. And I'm hoping it's Jared Goff. But man, what an evenly matched contest. I think the fans are going to be in for a treat. But I think, like many people, hold on tight. If you're prone to take some medications, take some of those anti-anxiety meds, because I think this one's coming right down to the wire.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm interested in the crowd reaction. And John, maybe you heard. I haven't heard anything yet. Are the Lions doing anything for the unnamed quarterback? Are they going to throw up a video or look? The Lions have been classy about it. Stafford's, we joke about it, but he's been classy about it. And even Sean McVay today saying all nice things about Jared Goff and actually saying, "Hey, I feel bad. I screwed up, 3 years ago, and I didn't handle it well." I thought that was first class by McVay. I really do.
Yeah, I would be surprised if they did it this year in the postseason, because the Rams are coming to town next year. I would think that the regular season contest would be a prime spot to do a tribute. I think the stakes are too high. And I think you probably would upset a lot of people if you have a tribute video in a game that's probably the most important game in Lions franchise history to honor Matthew Stafford. I mean, Matt, isn't it crazy? You got bars. I thought the talk would be about Stafford's 12-year run. The Stafford jersey shit is crazy. I can't believe that we're talking about bars. People saying, "Hey, don't wear the jersey into."
He didn't even win a playoff game here.
You post one thing about the jersey and it goes haywire, man. Like I have like
wild.
I have 1,000 shares on one of these posts. Like I'm just like,
yeah.
man. I should just put a Stafford jersey on every post.
Man, I know it's the unnamed quarterback, but I can't believe how much traction Kelly Stafford and Matthew still get in this town. It's great for us. I get it. But, man, what a game. I think everybody's going to love to talk about it all week. I think the X's and O's will start to get broken down a little bit more towards Thursday, Friday. Right now, it's all the pomp and circumstance as all the people talk. But I think in the next couple days, it'll be the X's and O's and who's going to win this contest. But, man, I can't. I just got back from there, man. It's wild. There's so much going on. People are consuming all kinds of Lion stuff right now. It's a big game. And I know you and your talks will be definitely learning more about the Rams, and pay attention to that interior, man. They're dangerous. They can do some stuff with those two guys, Turner and Donald. Goff, listen, I think one of the keys is going to be when he faces pressure. And all year I've tried to find a way to ask it in a way where someone would answer it, but it's just tough because when any quarterback that deals with pressure from the interior is going to struggle. His QBR rating in the face of pressure is so bad. I just wonder, is there an avenue for him to just get a little better at just throwing the football away? Because the fear that you would have is in big games, the guy that was at the Rams shows up. You don't want to see Goff haywire throwing interceptions, kind of putting the Lions in a rough spot. And I think that McVay is going to know each and every crevice and knowing which things will really make Goff uncomfortable. How he handles that interior pressure is going to be huge, in my opinion.
No question.
Matt's got to go leave. He has a scheduled appointment with Locked on Rams and pre-recording. So thank you for coming on the show again.
All right, fellas. Thank you, Dars.
Hang on,
right, Matt.
Your last words for you.
No last words. Thank you, guys. Yep. Always love coming on. John, I'm going to come up to the box and see you this weekend on Sunday night. And,
awesome.
And fellas, let's have some more fun with this. Darcy, anytime you need me, hit me up. All right.
Well, hopefully we're going to be in the next round, divisional round. So, all right. Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. Let these pros go at it here.
Yeah, I have a question. Let me start first. Any chance we get a blowout? And I was talking to my brother about this yesterday. Any chance that the Lions really ride this crowd and ride this wave and they blow the doors off the Rams?
Man, I was thinking that on the drive home. You know, when you look at the Lions, you realize all the energy that's going to be at Ford Field. All you can do is, when you look at the past, is the 91 playoff game and the eruption that they have. There's a chance the Lions start off very fast. And if they get the coin toss and Dan Campbell takes the football, the eruption, does he go on defense? I mean, lately, Campbell's been taking the football. I think that might be beneficial. You got an offense that wants to showcase things. Maybe you want to keep the eruption going and you let the Rams go at it first. But I think that, you look at the Lions and you realize, is this the outpouring of the last 30 years? Is this like the culmination of just kind of that dormant football team? So I was thinking it, but the matchup, while is so close, you realize these are like really identical teams. The Laporta injury just it's killer. I just wish that the Lions were coming in as close to healthy as possible. And, but I could see the Lions erupting early, getting a huge wave of momentum. I think the Ford Field decibel levels are going to hit all-time highs. It's going to be absolutely wild. And I can't wait to see how the Lions perform. It would be great. The stress level for everybody would be so much lower, but I just see, when you got Stafford, the veteran, the Rams have weapons. They have defenders that can do some things on the interior. Yeah, their secondary is not as great as everybody would think, but I just think that when you got Stafford back there with all that experience and two good wideouts and a running game that's starting to pick it up, that makes it really hard, I think. And Dan Campbell's team kind of early on in the year was showcasing the ability to blow out teams, but I think they kind of love that zone of gritty football and understanding that, hey, when you're when you're playing a style of football where you run the football and take calculated risks, it makes it kind of tough to blow a team out. If Laporta was there, we could have that discussion, but with him, probably if he is playing at 60% or less, I just see a close contest coming down to the wire. I love the real fast. I love the comment. Maybe a video of Stafford's greatest turnovers. I would like that. That's great.
Yeah, I'm kind of more confident that if any team's going to get blown out, it's going to be the Rams. I'm fairly confident this is going to be the game that J-Mo breaks out. I just have a feeling because, you go, like I said, I was telling Matt before you came on, John, that and Walter, that like when you look at the Rams, one of the things that they struggle with the most on their defense is yards after the catch. They cannot tackle after the receiver makes a catch. So when you got guys like Amon-Ra St. Brown, and you got Jameson Williams, and you got Josh Reynolds. I mean, these are guys. There was a guy in the comments that said Josh Reynolds could go off for 100 yards. I could believe it because I don't respect this defensive backfield for the Rams. And I know you were talking about sacks and pressure up the middle, but here's another stat for you that you can kind of use. Per Pro Football Focus, there's a stat called pressure turned into a sack. And you know who is number 2 in the NFL in that stat behind Josh Allen?
Who's that?
It's Jared Goff.
Jared Goff.
Yeah. So, and Matthew Stafford on the other side is like 21st, I think it is. 21st or 17th. So I look at these Rams tackles, and I could see the Lions getting them off the field because when you look at their tackles, like you got I went through a bunch of them, but they have 10 sacks combined. And one of the major mismatches in the middle is Lee McNeil versus Coleman Shelton. Coleman Shelton struggles against some of the top tier like defensive linemen. He struggled against Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis and even Jalen Carter. He struggled against a lot of players this year. So that's if you're wanting a mismatch in the middle, it's the Lions with Lee McNeil. That's why I'm glad they got him back.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if James Houston will be back. He was a full participant. It's a good sign. I'm hoping that he's unleashed because that man, if I think that the opportunity that Aiden Hutchinson has potentially now to sack Matthew Stafford would be something really, really special to see. Like I said, this contest, when I look at it and I see what the keys are, I know many people are nervous about the Lions defense. I think this is the opportunity for the Lions offense to really do some things with Jared Goff, St. Brown. I think this is an offensive game. You're going to need to keep up. I just have a hard time seeing because it's such an offensive league. It's prime time. And Sean McVay is an expert. He knows offensive football, designing plays. I just think that the Lions offense has got to keep up. And, I know the talk, and I don't know if you guys have talked about it, just it's hard to say that James was going to break out when he averages throughout the year 30 yards a game. That was his average. And it's tough to say. Maybe you can count on that one deep shot opportunity that connects. But until we see it, it's just hope because, he's got that. But I'm sure that the Rams understand that's the guy that's going to be the deep threat. In the playoffs, I think people step up. You don't see busted coverages all that much. So J-Mo maybe one explosive play, but I would be surprised if he's a big factor just because of the fact that you got other opportunities, and I think they're going to focus on the run.
All right, let's say that Sam Laporta doesn't play. The target share is going to go to someone. And you can go to Amon-Ra St. Brown the whole game, but eventually they're going to double coverage him. So it's going to have to go to someone else. And it could be James Mitchell. It could be Jahmyr Gibbs coming out of the backfield. Right. But I think that they're going to – this is a time because I think that Jameson Williams has a unique speed. And these defensive backs for the Rams cannot tackle after the catch. That's one of their biggest bugaboos. I was watching some film yesterday. And they were allowing a guy like – I know Deebo Samuel is great, but like they were allowing like what's the guy for Juwan Johnson or whatever from the Saints? They were allowing him to get free. So it just goes to show you like that there is mismatches to exploit. And when you got a guy like Jameson Williams who's as fast as he is, I think the target share and the fact that he can make people miss, that's one of the reasons I think he could break out. Now I'm not saying he's going to go for like 150 yards or anything. Right. I just think that he can play a vital role in this game this weekend.
Maybe 2 deep bombs, an opportunity to use them a little bit more. I asked Dan Campbell today, I said, why do you trust J-Mo? Your goal for him all year was just learn the fundamentals of the game. And he said, look, he's been doing all the work. He's earned the right to potentially get more targets. It's just they've been saying that, but it just hasn't happened. So we'll see if it comes to fruition. I think that's one of the keys offensively for the Lions is explosive plays. How many do they get? Do they take deep shots to open up the run game? Who gets those targets? I think that Josh Reynolds will probably get a nice, healthy share of targets as well, knowing that, this is a guy that has been reliable and is somebody that Jared Goff knows very well. The injury to Khalif Raymond, that stinks because you saw him get 2 explosive plays last week, and I think that he was building momentum on special teams. So that's a tough situation to see. But, hey, you never know. It could be the Amon-Ra St. Brown performance. But, man, at the same time, look out for Jahmyr Gibbs. I think big-time players make big-time plays in big moments. And I think, like you said, passes out of the backfield. I think the offense is going to, like you said, the Rams defense only 17th, I think, DVOA, middle-of-the-road defense. But they're going to be looking to bring the pressure. Same thing with the Lions defense. They're going to try to pressure Stafford, and let's see who executes the best. And it's just the best matchup. I think that for fans, if you're nervous, I just think this game is going to be tough to watch because I think you're going to see similar execution on both sides of the ball. You'll see Hutchinson get sacks. You'll see Donald and Turner do their thing. You'll see Goff look like sometimes he'll look like he can't throw the football, and other times he'll lead the drive. Same with Stafford. So I just think that, when we fast forward to the fourth quarter, who makes those plays late? And I can't wait to see it. Lions have shown that they've been doing it, but how concerned I think many people are on the Lions defense are talking about Cam Sutton, Kindle Vildor, and the secondary there. I think that's the biggest concern is that, and you see in the chat and the talk is Cam Sutton kind of is really a cornerback 2 that's being put in a cornerback 1 spot. And it's unfortunate because, we've seen now for the last month, the secondary get torched, but in the end they make the plays. So that's kind of the tough situation is that we all would like to see the Rams get completely shut down, but I don't see it happening. I just think that the league is set up for cornerbacks to fail, and you got Nakua and Cooper Kupp. I just hope that we don't see Kupp just take over the game because you guys all saw last year, everybody would just be like, how on earth is this wide receiver open this much for periods of time and stretches of games where he should be the primary target? Having Nakua just makes it such a tough situation for the Lions. I think that one of the keys to the game is how well Cam Sutton and Vildor play. If they can step up and just limit the yards after the catch, I don't know how successful the blitzes are going to be from Aaron Glenn. You would think that he's going to do it a lot more, but pressure hopefully will come, and that will impact Stafford's timing. But I think that Cam Sutton is a big factor in this one.
Yeah, I say time of possession. And I think that's a big issue a lot of teams have with taking us down throughout the regular season. You can score on us. You can throw the ball all over the field. You can get your 25 points to 30 every now and then. But at the end of the day, we still dominate the time of possession. So if we're shutting down your running game and allowing our running games still to get 140, 150, 160 or more, it still equals out for us. And I think that's probably what's going to happen to the Rams. I don't see them being able to get the running game going. And if they can't get the running game going, that's forcing Stafford to drop back way too much. Now, something I think a lot of people aren't really talking about, and I understand some people were fans of him, some people were not. But not having that big body in the middle of Isaiah Buggs is going to be an issue. Because now if you're looking at it for what it is, we have more pass rush-oriented D tackles. You're talking about Pascal, who can play some 3 tech from time to time, some 4, can line up outside the tight end if you want him to. And then you're talking about maybe a guy like Levi Onwuzurike. Can we get some valuable pass rush snaps from him? I think we're going to need someone along that defensive line to be some sort of unsung hero, because without Buggs, you're leaning pretty much all on Benito Jones to be that run stuffer. Because outside of Benito, nobody else is really that. Aleem is coming back from injury. So we don't know what we're really going to get out of Aleem in a playoff game. This is a big moment from him too. So he's coming back from injury. He's undoubtedly our best defensive lineman, our best interior defensive lineman. But outside of him coming back from injury and Benito Jones, who, no disrespect, is just pretty much a guy out there. So out of those two guys, aside from them, who else do we have that's really going to step up and really be a big time difference maker in the playoffs?
It's interesting because I know John's more in the situation right there. That Isaiah Buggs situation was kind of bizarre. I mean, if we want to put it lightly, it was pretty bizarre. But when I looked at some of the stats, there's one signature stat that I looked at. Obviously, John Kaminsky, he's a reliable tackle, but he's not gonna. He plays some interior, but I think the most important person for the run game is Jack Campbell. I mean, let's face it. Jack Campbell has been absolutely dominant in the run game. Now he can get better in the pass game, but let's be honest. He's a freaking rookie. So, I mean, is he going to be a Roquan Smith out of the box? Probably not. But I just look at some of the plays. Like I was watching last week, and he comes down on Ty Chandler, and Ty Chandler has an open seam to go the distance, and he just closes that hole real quick, and that's stopped the drive. And the next play, Nick Mullins with his squished face throws an interception. So that's how it is. I mean, Jack Campbell is the key to the game, the key to the run game, especially stopping it. I mean, I know people look at the defensive line, they go, that's how you stop the run game. But look, Lions fans are not used to having a reliable linebacker like a guy like Jack Campbell. I think the last time we had a reliable linebacker like Jack Campbell was maybe Steven Tolek, maybe. I mean, that's pretty much it. Like that's the guy that's probably going to be stopping Kyron Williams the most. I mean, he's been him and Alex Anzalone have been making tackles all over the place. And I look at that linebacker crew, and it's probably one of the most underrated parts of this team. To be honest, I mean, they're not good in the pass game, but they are pretty damn good in the run game.
Joe, you got concerns about Cam Sutton secondary? I think that it's a big deal, and it's kind of like you can see a bend don't break style. And obviously, I expect the Rams to get into the red zone, but maybe the Lions are hoping that they clamp down and get into a situation in which they limit the Rams into field goals. Like I said, I don't see the avenue in which the Rams don't play very well offensively. It's set up for that. I mean, cornerbacks can't. You breathe on a wide receiver and you're flagged, and you've seen it now. I mean, here's the tough part: is to say, how do you expect? And I'm sure Campbell will maybe answer it again on Friday. But how do you expect the secondary to step up when the last 3 weeks you've seen it against Justin Jefferson, you've seen it against top wideouts where you're giving up 400 yards of offense to your opponents? You really kind of have relied on the turnovers, which I think is great, getting the CD Deuce back, and Kirby Joseph has been opportunistic. But I just think it's going to be very, very challenging for this defense to really get a stronghold, especially if McVay brings it. Now, the one thing, though, that McVay struggles at times is he does get a little conservative on fourth down. That's why getting the lead, I think, the biggest key early on. If you can get out to a 10-point lead, put the pressure all on Stafford to come back, I think it'll be very challenging at Ford Field. But Matthews has experience. He knows all these things. I just think the secondary just, unsung hero. Maybe Brian Branch is an unsung hero and does some things as well. But I would think this Lions team will have a hard time winning if they don't get a turnover here or there. One or two extra possessions needed. And I don't know if you guys have talked about the dreaded big weakness, but I hope we don't see Michael Badgley at all on that field unless he's kicking extra points. Because could you imagine? It hasn't happened yet too much, a missed extra point here or there. Could you imagine the season comes down, Lions are driving, they're down 1 or down 2, and you need Michael Badgley on a 55-yarder? I think my heart will explode.
My worst fear, I was telling Tyler in the podcast, like, what is your worst fear going into the playoffs? And my worst fear coming into the playoffs was Michael Badgley. Like, yeah, let's be honest. Like,
no doubt.
I mean, you could say the secondary is your worst fear. I mean, I have a little bit of I'll get to that in a minute, but my worst fear is Michael Badgley. Like, he missed that extra point last week, and then I hear Dan Campbell come out and say, Well, if he misses one, it's because he misses the ball, and it's like, bro,
You can't miss the ball. That's his job.
that's the deal, dude. Like,
Missed the placement.
You got one damn job, bro. That
Kick the ball.
is to kick the ball. But I'm just like, man, like when he said that, I was like, oh my god, like, and then I'm like,
it was funny, right?
How bad was Riley Patterson in practice to get Michael Badgley up here? Now, I do think Michael Badgley has a better leg, to be honest, but I don't know. When you see Riley Patterson shank a field goal, this first extra point against with the Browns, I'm like, holy crap! Brett Holmes needs to do something about that kicking stuff in the off season. So that's one of my issues. But I was looking, so I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on this. I was interested to see how the snap counts and the alignments of with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson coming back, how they align the defense. And I was very interested because you know who took a majority of snaps at the outside corner spot? Ifeatu Melifonwu. So they moved him. So he played split. He was playing safety. I think it was like 16 snaps, and then he played 19 snaps outside corner. I thought that was interesting. That's what I was when Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was coming back. One of the things I really wanted to see was how they would align the defense. And the one thing I looked at with the Rams is Cooper Kupp plays a majority of his snaps in the slot. I think Brian Branch is going to be the biggest key to this game because I know we've seen Brian Branch be good all year long, pretty much, but I think he could really show himself to the world of how good he's been because we have really understated how good he has been. I think you're going to have to. I think it's going to be where McVay starts moving Cooper Kupp out the outside. But that's not Cooper Kupp's game. Like the majority of his touchdown catches come from the slot. So if Brian Branch is good in coverage, like he's been all year long, they're going to be fine. I think the biggest part of it, though, is I'm still waiting for Cameron Sutton not to have his worst year of his career like he's having right now. I mean, his stats are comparable to Jerry Jacobs, so that's not good. So, but you mentioned Justin Jefferson and you mentioned CeeDee Lamb. I just think those are two dogs that you are not going to face again. You're just not until you play them. You play the Cowboys in the divisional round. Those guys are totally different than the guys that we're going to go against this week. I know Puka has been good and Cooper Kupp is just he's a great player, but those guys that you're talking about, those are elite athletes, elite wide receivers, and they're just good at everything. So, and I don't know. I think everyone's putting a little bit too much stock into CeeDee Lamb and Justin Jefferson busting their ass. But if you look at it, like Justin Jefferson, like he wanted Nick Mullins to be in the game against Green Bay. Like you could tell, like when Jaron Hall overthrew that ball to him, he was like, bro, get me a guy that could get me the effing ball. That's basically what he was saying. And that's why they had Nick Mullins in there, because Nick Mullins is going to come in there and rip it and grip it. That's what he does.
Yeah, but Joe, the thinking is that, okay, if you know that there's a CeeDee Lamb and there's a Justin Jefferson, then that should be like, the Bill Belichickian model, which is, hey, take away the best guy and make somebody else shine. And so the worry is like, okay, you spent all week preparing to limit Justin Jefferson and you still couldn't do it. So where's the confidence that he's going to spend all week trying to stop Cooper Kupp if you don't see it? So what we're seeing is trends. And the last month, the secondary wasn't exactly trending in the right direction. Now, what is trending in the right direction, though, is the pressure from the defensive line from Aiden Hutchinson. That should give people a lot of confidence. I think Aiden Hutchinson could have a multi-sack game, and that's where everybody says, how do you help the secondary? You improve the pass rush. If James Houston's back. So if you get that pass rush, that can make the secondary look like world beaters. So that's where it's just tough into the postseason, is that nobody's seen it yet for the last couple, games, is that, hey, if you don't stop someone, then they're going to do some damage. So I'm curious what Walt thinks as well. But I just think that it's very much a concern regarding if Aaron Glenn is going to have the secondary playing at their best at the right moment, because he said, hey, we're winners now. The good thing is though, we look at it and we say on that side, there's a concern, but the positive side is they're not giving up a lot of points. So they are clamping down. They are forcing turnovers. They are making the plays in the red zone, which they've gotten better at, and they've done a good job taking that defense from where it was with the talent that they had to play better and to not give up points in the red zone. So that'll be key, is that, okay, it is a bend, don't break kind of style, selective pressure, and you hope that this defense rises to the occasion, because I think that the offense is NFC title caliber. It's good if you have everybody healthy and they're playing well. The biggest, I think, thing that's going to help this football team is if that defense can rise up and take their game to the next level. I want to see it. That's the best part. I'm a big fan of defense. I want to see it, but it's going to be tough when you got a great mind like McVay.
Yeah. Personally, I figured as much. If you're struggling at the cornerback position the way we have been all season, for that matter, you have to get your best players on the field, period. I think they need to figure out a way, scheme-wise, to get Melifonwu, Chauncey Gardner, Branch, and Joseph all on the field as much as possible. Run a lot more split field coverages. You got a guy in Chauncey Gardner who can play some man-to-man in the slot. Branch can do the same. Branch can also come off the edge and blitz. Branch can also run contain. They need to figure out a way to get their best defensive backs all on the field as much as possible at the same time and let those guys do what they do best. If you look at how the Philadelphia Eagles slowed down Tyreek Hill earlier in the season, it wasn't one guy. Slay's been beat up all season. Bradbury's been terrible all season. It's the coverage. And when you don't have that one number one corner or that one guy that you can throw out there, first of all, it's not that many of them. Even if you look at this past rookie class, Joey Porter had a really good season, but Porter had some issues along the way, like most of them do. Christian Gonzalez was perhaps the defensive rookie of the year before he got hurt, and he was out for the season. Emmanuel Forbes was a first-round pick. He struggled terribly. You got a guy like Clark Phillips who just started now, recently, over the freshly benched Jeff Okudah. Can't believe I forgot his name, who was here. So it's hard to really get those type of guys, and when you get them, typically they don't hit the market that often. So you have to draft them. You have to find these guys, these diamonds. You have to go out there and get them. But if you don't have the corners, you want to make sure you get your best DBs on the field as possible. It's winning time now. You want Chauncey Gardner out there as much as possible. He's got the experience. Branch doesn't have it. Joseph doesn't have it. Now, you don't get it until you actually get it by out there playing, but you have to make sure that your playmakers are all out there, because I think during this time of year, it's about which team makes the most plays. If you look at the Cincinnati Bengals from a couple years ago that went to the Super Bowl, they didn't have the best defense in the league, but they were very opportunistic. Now, they also had a guy in Trey Hendrickson who had, I believe, 14 or 15 sacks that season. But you have to be opportunistic, and you have to make plays. I think that's what it really comes down to now. It's very, very positive, because we were complaining about this team not making plays all season. So it's very positive to see this team making plays over the past few games for sure. So, like I said, in my opinion, they just need to mix the coverages up. If it takes playing 4 safeties more than you want to, theoretically, you go ahead and you do it, because you want the best players on the field. We don't need to see Vildor that much. I don't want to see Vildor out there on Cup. We got Jacobs. Like, there's not a lot that we have right now, and it still kind of upsets me because we complained about this prior to the draft. I love our picks. LaPorta, potential All-Pro moving forward. Jahmyr Gibbs, dynamite. Jack Campbell. Started out slow, really turned it along, middle of the season. He's gone now. He's there. I believe he's there. But we've been neglecting the cornerback position for too long, way too long, and I think it has to get addressed. I felt this way for a long time. I felt that whether you're talking cornerback, interior defensive line, or edge rusher, this team is 1 to 2 big-time players away from really contending.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that totally. I'm interested to hear what you say, John, because what he says, I think that Brett Holmes tried to put the cornerback position in, but he tried to get these guys out of free agency, and we never seen Emmanuel Mosley. We barely seen Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, and I do think one of the faults of Brett Brad Holmes this year was he relied too much on Charles Harris, Romeo Okwara, Josh Pascal coming out and trying to make all these plays. I mean, it hasn't happened. So, I mean, I think that's part of the fault of Brad Holmes, because I think if they would have got if they would have got just an okay pass rusher in the draft, I think they'd be in a better position right now. But they've relied too much on old people, and that's what got you in this situation. And then, you said defensive lineman. Like, I don't know what the hell Broderick Martin was. I mean, I would have loved Kobe Turner instead of Hendon Hooker, but that's beside the point.
I wanted
Yeah,
Carl
no, we got to also remember the Rams.
You leave my Hendon Hooker alone
Yeah.
there, Slappy.
The
Your
Rams,
Hendon Hooker can get that.
Joe Chop, the Jared Goff, Slappy. You leave him.
You're a Hendon Hooker, Slappy, so yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Also remember too, though, Brad Holmes did sign Emmanuel Mosley. That was the plan, and that lasted 2 snaps. So this
Not
has been
even-
and snap.
2 snaps, and that was
Two
it.
snaps and snap.
2 snaps, and that was a wrap. And it's unfortunate because that's a big deal. That was a guy that was expected to take a step and have a prove-it situation. So that really messes things up, because you realize that it would have given Cam Sutton a little more leeway to get a little bit of help. And Jerry Jacobs has only so much to offer. But, it's tough. It's like I said, it's a nightmare situation, but they're going to play to their strengths and they're going to try. And it's been good to see the safeties take over, because Aaron Glenn does emphasize that there are options there, and they can make a lot of teams pay if they make a mistake. So we'll see. We'll see, how fast the Lions close. Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes have to be able to make the plays and not miss tackles and be consistent and be ferocious. And when they blitz, that's the big thing. When they blitz, you saw last week, if you mess up a blitz, then there's going to be some chunk plays, some explosives. Did you guys talk about Dan Campbell? Which one are we going to get? Are we going to get the full aggressive Dan Campbell? 4th down on the plus side, going for it, take some points. How do you think Dan Campbell plays this? Clearly, I think that when Dan Campbell makes the decisions, I think there'll be some points. I think that he'll go for it still. There will be a level of aggression, but I don't think that you're going to see, from the minus side of the field, them going for it on 4th down. I think that in certain situations, they'll take some points and try. And I think with Dan Campbell, what happens is that you see his plan, which is no matter what, we're going for it. But sometimes the nuance of playoff football is the feel of the game. We're all thinking it's going to be a shootout, so you're going to need points. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's a defensive battle. Maybe the nerves get the best of both teams. And if you're playing in like a 7-6 kind of game and you got the ball on the 15, it's 4th and 2 or 3, take the points. Maybe you recognize, okay, you know what? Now we have an opportunity to get ahead. And, because at times, look, the 4th down calls are good, but at times, sometimes you see Ben Johnson get a little bit too risky in his play calling on 4th down. And if this game happens to turn on a decision that Dan Campbell makes, that's going to shed some of the positive benefits that he's gained for being a head coach, because now the spotlight's on him. I have confidence he navigates this well. I feel like he's going to outcoach he's going to outcoach Sean McVay, and similarly to how he outcoached his mentor, I think that he's going to have everything in order. But at the same time, if you are looking for something to be just a little concerned about, if Dan Campbell, maybe the other side happens as well. Maybe he becomes too conservative, gets a little nervous in those moments. Do you see him shying away a little bit from going for it on 4th down? Because these are big moments, and you guys see, and obviously the biggest culprit is Mike McCarthy. His in-game decisions in the postseason are horrendous. And they just always lent to people complaining, like, he's a good football coach, solid football mind, has his teams always with a winning record. But then you see what you saw last year in the postseason, and you're like, what are these guys doing? The nerves sometimes may get to you. And I just hope that Dan Campbell runs the game right. I have confidence he will, but I am highlighting that as a concern regarding something that could go on in this game, because you've been in this situation as an assistant, but you haven't been the one that's got to fall on the sword on these decisions, and I can't wait to see it. I have confidence he's going to do well and navigate it right, but I am concerned it could go haywire as well.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he handles this. I think Joe and I discussed this a few times throughout the season. Being able to gauge the temperature of the game, how the game is flowing. And we've seen plenty of games this season where if he would have just took the points, that Dallas game, for example, we could have beaten Dallas by a solid possession or more if he would have just managed the game a little bit better. Also, I think the red zone offense has gotten a little bit better as of late. They lack a lot of creativity. I think the offense that they run between the 20s, they try to run that same exact offense inside the green zone, and things don't work out for them too much. So, and not having Laporta, I think that's something else that people aren't factoring into how he calls the game or how Ben Johnson calls the game as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with. I think that this is an interesting topic because, one of the things I've talked to, one of the guys that actually played for Sean Payton and Dan Campbell, and the one thing that he said that kind of rings with me is they're the same person. So if you're expecting Dan Campbell to change, he's not changing anytime soon. This is part of his DNA. It's part of Sean Payton's DNA. I mean, this is the same guy who did an onside kick in the freaking Super Bowl to start the half. I mean, look, those coaches are different. Like, those coaches are a rare breed. Like, you talked about Mike McCarthy, right? Mike McCarthy is the most bland coach I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, he had Aaron Rodgers for years, and this guy is he's running on third down and 2. Like, you have Aaron effing Rodgers, bro. Pass the ball. That's what I like about Dan Campbell. The one coach I'm really worried about in this game is Ben Johnson, because me and Walt have talked about this. The red zone efficiency isn't good, so I need more creativity out of the red zone. And if there's no Stan Laporta, that's where you got to earn your money. And if Ben Johnson wants to go to if he wants to pick his effing job, okay, after this playoffs is done, if he wants to pick his job, he can pick his job just by the way that this team goes through the playoffs. If they go all the way to the NFC Championship, I guarantee you that he's going to be able to pick his job. If he wants to go to the Chargers, if he wants to go to the Seahawks, if he wants to go to the Commanders, whatever he wants to do. This is a huge for him and for Aaron Glenn, because I'm confident that Aaron Glenn's going to get a coaching job, because I don't think people have appreciated how good Aaron Glenn has done with absolute chicken shit as defensive talent, because he's missed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson throughout the whole year. He hasn't had a legitimate pass rush opposite side of Aiden Hutchinson. You're going to lose both coordinators because there's a key demand, and there's 7 job openings right now. I mean, this is a key time for these coordinators to kind of make a name for themselves.
All right, we've been at it 60 minutes. I hopped in the second half. A lot of good talk. So, like everybody wants to know what you guys believe will be the key to winning, and we'll do it through a fill in the blank. I loved it when I was on an appearance and they said, it's time to play fill in the blank. So, both sides, fill in the blank. The Lions will win the game because the Lions could lose the game because. And my thoughts are, in any big game, I look at the quarterbacks. And I look at it that if the Lions are going to win the game, the key is going to be Jared Goff. Withstanding the pressure, handling the stuff he's going to see from Donald and Turner, quickly assessing what he's got to do, checking into the right plays, limiting those turnovers. If the Lions win, Jared Goff balls out. If the Lions should lose in front of the home fans, it'll be because Matthew Stafford comes in and plays at the highest level possible. He'll be the stud of the team. He'll come into Ford Field with all the experience that he's had. A guy that's an ultimate competitor, a gamer, Brett Favre type. He's got the ring. Jared Goff wants the ring. So who's the real champ? Who's the real man? Some could say it's Stafford. Some could say it's Goff. In this offense with Ben Johnson. Who's the man? I think if the Lions lose, it'll be because of Matthew Stafford.
If the Lions win, I think it's because they played on their toes all night. Stay aggressive, stay physical. Play aggressive on defense, stay aggressive in the play calling on offense. If the Lions lose, and I'm going to be frank about this, if the Lions lose, I think it's going to come down to coaching mistakes. When it comes down to, if you look at how Dan Campbell has this team wired, they're young, and they don't have a lot of top shelf elite talent, but they're young, and he has this team winning a lot on the road. That's something that people don't take into account. A young football team that's confident in going on the road and winning is something special. Therefore, I don't expect them to be, this moment to be too big for them. They're going to be at home. I don't expect them to play tight. How many times this season have we seen Dan Campbell's team play tight? These young dudes don't play tight. They play like they're too ignorant to know they're not supposed to be there. Ignorant in a good way. Ignorant in a good way. It's like they're too young to realize, hey, listen, you're young. You're supposed to be playing bad. This moment is supposed to be too big for you. Arrowhead is too big for you guys. You're going to go there and not know what hit you. This team is good. I think the temperament of this team is good. The fact that a team this young, this early in the rebuild is comfortable, they seem to be more comfortable going on the road beating teams than even at home.
Mm-hmm.
So if something happens, I don't expect Goff to lay an egg. I really don't. I don't expect the defense to play terrible. I don't expect the running game to struggle. If something happens in this game, if this team loses, I think it's going to be because of 2 or 3 plays that Dan Campbell directly had a hand in.
Ooh. Joe, what you got? Fill in the blank.
I'm gonna keep it very simple. I'm gonna keep it very simple for why they lose. If they lose, it's because they lose a turnover battle. That's it. That is it. Because if you lose the turnover battle, I mean, that's obviously you didn't force no turnovers with Matthew Stafford, and that's an indictment on itself. And if they win, it's because they stopped Kyren Williams. I mean, let's look at the facts. When you look at when Kyren Williams is held under 100 yards or this rushing attack isn't a full go for the Rams, they don't win. They do not win. They are a team that when they get held under a certain amount of yards, they are not a good team. They're not the same team. You know, Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff they're similar in some ways, but Jared Goff's a little bit proficient in a different way. When Stafford has to do it all by himself, he struggles. When Jared Goff he had to do it against Tampa Bay, he excelled. That's the key in the game, because when you look at this game, it's going to come down to who runs the ball better, because that's how it always comes down to in the playoffs, and it comes down to turnovers. And if you can and if you can get turnovers, and if you win the turnover battle, you're winning the freaking football game. Period.
So I'm hoping this isn't our last show of the season. I appreciate John Maakaron. I'm hoping, Walter's chomping at the bit to do draft shows.
Man, no, I'm not. No,
yeah, you are. No.
I could. Hey, listen, I can still do draft shows on other people's teams.
Mm-hmm.
Just not.
But
ours.
I appreciate Joe for letting us go live to this show. I appreciate John for always coming on with short notice. I'm hoping this isn't our last show for the Detroit Lions. John, if you want to come on next Wednesday, I'll try to get Kelly Stafford on. I message Glover Quinn. I message all these people. I have. That's what I do. I don't watch. I'm like Walter. Walter watches college football like 24/7.
No, listen, whatever happens, if the opportunity presents itself and the Lions win, blessing for another show. But if they don't, I think a recap show is always great to recap the season, what the heck happened in the game. Right. Wednesday's always a good time. I love talking Lions football. It's crazy. Could you imagine if next week we get the chance to break down the Lions and the Cowboys again? Yeah. Oh my goodness gracious. I want to see it. I feel like it's in the cards.
This will not
I'd
be
rather
the last.
see Lions and Buccaneers, honestly.
This will not be the last show.
Lions,
John, I got a new intro video, so I've been bitching about this forever, but I'm sorry that I wanted Walter in. But it is what it is. I gave up my end zone seats for this, but thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Detroit Lions News Show. Subscribe to Joe Chaps. What is it again?
Detroit Lions News podcast in between the whistles.